Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, we are going to be learning the pen tool, how it works, and some other tools that you might use with it or mistaken it for. Okay, so the pen tool is your free-form drawing tool in here that is very precise. So you will see over on this left side that some of you might have recognized that there's a paintbrush, and that's mainly for painting. We'll learn that and how that works later on. There is also a pencil tool that's hidden in here as well, which we'll learn at another time as well. So I kind of look at the pencil tool as the very informal tool, the pen tool as the very formal tool or a very precise tool, and then the paintbrush is kind of in between as well. And there's different unique things that you can do with the paintbrush instead of just drawing straight dots and curves and lines. So I look at the pen tool as its main drawing tool that we're going to be using in class. So the pen tool is right up here. It's the third one down on the left. Okay, and if I zoom in up here before we get started, I kind of showed you a picture of some of the other things that we're going to have. You're going to be resetting the tool with this combination of Shift, Control, and A. It's a little bit different than just hitting Escape. Escape will kind of get you off of drawing, but it doesn't reset the entire tool so that you can continue somewhere else. Okay, we're going to set our settings up to be the same. So we're going to have no fill or none. So up at this top, we're going to change this to none. The stroke color is your choice. Okay, I'm going to make mine red so it stands out, but you can make whatever color you want. And then on here, I believe I wrote that the weight is 2, just so it's a little bit thicker. When you're doing a thin line, you're going to see your mistakes and it's not as smooth for you to learn. Okay, so each one I have step-by-step directions here. The first one, it's just drawing a straight line. So it says we're going to click, we're going to move our mouse, we're going to click again, and then reset. So over here to the right, we're going to be drawing a line basically. So click, and you can see now that I clicked and I moved my mouse out, it dropped what's called an anchor or like a little point. And just like an anchor of a boat, you drop that over the boat, you got a line attached to it, hopefully, and that's what we've got here. So I'm just moving over, and if I want to hold in Shift, it's going to make a perfectly horizontal line, as you can kind of see. I'm turning it off and on. So I'm holding in Shift, and if I click again, now we drew a straight line. Now it's asking me to continue. Well, if I want to reset, that's going to be Control, Shift, and A. Okay, Control, Shift, and A. Number two. Number two says click, move the mouse, click and hold. And notice I got that as all caps there. So let's do that first. So we're going to click one time, we're going to move our mouse, and we're only going to move over a little bit. So you can see from to like here to here. Okay. And if you want to trace these, you can trace this if you want. That might be helpful too, or you can just draw over here in the side. So I'm just moving over a little bit. This time I'm going to click and hold my finger on the mouse. Then it says move to make the curve. So now if I move my mouse around, you can see that line gets curved. It also adds these other little things, which I'm going to explain in a second. Okay, so when I let go, those two things stay there. Those two things are called handles. So I kind of explain this to kids as almost a balancing act. So kind of like this. So you almost have your anchor or a person, and when you would lean to one side, they would have a pole if you're walking a tightrope. Or for us, if we lean to one side, we're going to probably put our arms out. That's kind of like what these handles are, these big things here. So I go back into Illustrator. That's exactly what we have here. It's almost like a balancing act. So we leaned really far to the left, we had to put our arms out, and now you can see Illustrator is going to try to rebalance it and almost curve back or lean back the same amount that it curved before. So if I want to make this look just like the left, if I curve that much over on the right, I want to try to keep my distance close to the same, and it's going to automatically do that curve for us. Now this is just a simple click. You don't have to click and hold. So if I click, now it did that natural curve. It rebalanced itself off of this handle, and you can see it took that handle away temporarily. And now I'm back to almost the starting point. It's like a new dot. So if I want to continue, just do the same thing. Now, it's going to be hard for me to move my mouse and explain this. So the big thing here, if you're trying to make nice, smooth transitioned lines, is as I'm clicking and I'm pulling, which you're going to see, I'm actually looking at this connection point as well. Okay, and I'm going to show you this. And I'm also going to make mine a little bit sloppy. But when I'm pulling this down, again, I'm looking over here at this connection point. I want to try to make that nice and smooth. So you can see right there it looks nice and smooth. Well, what happens if I kind of move it off to the side a little bit? All right, and then I need to try to fix this. So I'm going to try to show you here how to fix that. So I'm going to hit Control Shift A. And how do I fix this? Well, there's a couple different ways. So underneath the pen tool, you have add anchor point. So you would be adding dots or deleting dots. And sometimes you use those. Then there's the anchor point tool, which completely resets something. So I'll show you that in a second. So you would be using a combination of the anchor point tool or just the white arrow. So the white arrow comes into play here. If I click on this dot, you can see my different handles. So I can click on a handle and I can readjust it. My white arrow, if I click on a dot and then click and hold, I can adjust just that dot, right? So there's a lot of different settings here and things that you can do. So the white arrow allows you to move its placement. If I go underneath, and the handle, if I go underneath the anchor point tool, what this does is you can affect just the line, and you see you got a whole nother handle, which is a little bit tricky. If I click just on the dot itself, it kind of resets everything. If I click on the handle itself, it resets everything. And then I can kind of manipulate this and move this out again. So working with the anchor point tool can get a little bit fishy here, meaning you're using it, and if you're not real good at it, you might mess your stuff up even more. I like to have my students start out with the white arrow and try their best to fix everything they can. As you can kind of see in this picture right here, this little video that's showing up, it allows you to adjust the anchor points and the handles. And if you're good with that, then you can kind of move on and experiment with the anchor point tool. But if you're not really good with either one of those, you probably want to just get better at drawing in the first place. You know, drawing with the pen tool before you try to fix things. So the anchor point tool is kind of like a reset tool. But the pen tool is your drawing tool, as you can see. The anchor point tool also allows you to reset your handles and make real funky manipulation curves here. So that would be going up and down. That's basically clicking and holding. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my normal pen tool and I'm going to come down here. But first, I need to reset this. So Control Shift A. So I'm off of that one. Now this one kind of goes up, but then stops and goes up again. So we're going to click, move our mouse, click and hold, move to make the curve, and release. Okay, that's the normal thing we did before. So click, move, click and hold, bend to make the curve, and then release our mouse. Now, instead of continuing, it says click on the previous anchor point. So if I go back here and I click, you see the little symbol that just pops up next to my mouse. That is the anchor point tool. So it's resetting this handle or deleting that handle. And now I'm back at the start. I'm back at a normal dot. So it says move your mouse, repeat. So I move over, I click and hold, I bend, right? I let go, I click back and go over it again, right? When I'm all done, Control Shift A, it gets off of it. Now down here at the bottom, it says trace the umbrella by drawing on top of it. Set it to have a colored fill with no stroke. Draw the handle, move the handle layer down below the umbrella top, select all of it and move it off to the side. So if I zoom in on this, I can tell you by starting over here and going up over and then working my way underneath, I don't really get errors. I've had students do it the opposite way, and for some reason they get an error over here. So I'm just going to start over here. I'm going to click. I'm going to move all the way over here. Notice this is one nice smooth curve. Okay, and it's not like an irregular curve where it looks like, you know, it's a little bit more curved at this side than it is here, where I'd have to split the curve with a dot. This is one smooth, even curve. So when I move over and I click and hold, I should be able to bend all the way up and around. Now, depending on how far you're zoomed in, you know, it might kind of push off your screen. So I just held an Alt with my left hand and I zoomed out a little bit. And I'm going to stretch this until it reaches up and over. Now, right now, it's asking me to rebalance itself, as you can see. Well, this is the same thing that we just did here. So I'm going to come back and click on the previous anchor point, and I'm starting all the way over. Now I'll move over, I'll click and hold, and I'll bend. I'll click on my previous anchor point and just repeat that process. If you want to hold in shift, your stuff will be a little bit nicer, but this is just practice. So you can see it's just repeating the process. And when you do this, the more practice you have, the better at it you get. Now that's all strokes. I like to draw with no fill so I can see what I'm doing. Because if you draw with a fill, just to kind of show you, if I switch this from a stroke to a fill, when I go over here and do this, it fills in from my first dot to my second dot. So now I can't even see what I'm doing if I'm trying to make that curve there. It's really hard to work with if you draw with a fill. So I always draw without a fill. Okay. Now I'll take that and I will change it. So I'll just say it's going to have a red top. That's perfectly fine. Then down here it said draw the handle. So again, I want to switch back to a stroke. I'm going to get my pen tool. And instead of being right on here, I'm going to go up inside. I'm going to hold in shift. And I'm going to come down right about here. I can see that it starts to curve. You can kind of tell. So right around in there, I'll just click. And then I'll just go over here and kind of make one big curve. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's okay. Okay. Now, this one is on top. So I want to just show you here. If this is a different color, say like black, right, you're going to see it up there. So I'm going to move these. Even though I'm going out of order of what I said, this will make sense better when I'm not tracing. So you can see the handle's on top. So the directions said go over to your layers panel, and basically you're moving that handle underneath the top of the umbrella, which moves it behind. So you notice the umbrella is kind of covering over the top. So instead of trying to draw right up against, I always try to hide my ends by putting it inside of a shape. Okay. Now moving up here, this was just practice. So it says trace the fish in numerical order using the dots as you click to the points. So I color coordinated this as well. So number 1 is this like bluish color. You can see the blue dots. Okay, and I told you where to start. So I'm going to get my pen tool. Once again, I'm going to draw with a stroke, no fill, and it's okay that I'm drawing with a different color than blue. So I'm going to start up here. I want to do a click. I'm going to go down here, and I know I'm going to have to zoom out. So I'm going to click and hold and do one big curve, let go. I don't want this curved anymore, so I'll come back on my previous anchor point. I'll move over here. I'll go up into there, kind of curve. And you notice this is going up the hill and curving. So I need to pull up and away so it curves out to the left. And then this is going to rebalance itself nicely. And I know I'm off by a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so that's done. Control Shift A. Now, number 2, that's basically the whole fish body. And the one thing with the fish body that you can see is it goes all the way down and through here. So I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to go up and through this fin to this top spot. So I'll click and hold. I'm going to move over. And then it's going to wrap down around here. Then I'm going to go to his nose. Click and hold and move. And then I just noticed this. I could have sworn I put a dot on here for this activity because I don't think, if we reset this anchor, I don't think I can stretch all the way over to here. So I'm just going to do it. Why don't you just wait? Don't do it yet. Wait and see if this is correct or not. But I don't think I can stretch that full entire belly, as you can see. Yeah, I can't. So I'm going to hit undo. Your activity probably is going to have a dot down here. Okay, my video just doesn't show it because it looks like I just forgot to put the dot. So I'm going to go somewhere down in here above the 4. I'll click and hold. I'll bend this. And then I'll come back up here. So it definitely needed a dot. Okay, then I'll come back down here to his fin. Right, click back on my anchor point. And you got to make sure that you're actually clicking on the anchor point, just not next to it, like actually on it so it resets it. Then I'll curve. Same thing, it resets, rebalances itself rather, just curving around. And this does take practice. It's okay if yours is not that great yet, if yours is a little choppy. Remember, you can always fix things of how they look with the white arrow and moving the handles later on. And this is practice. We're going to have other practice activities. This is the very first time you've used it. So I'm just constantly using what I taught you, going back and resetting those handles. Okay, a little straight click. This one has like a little baby bend to it. And then back down to the end. Okay, Control Shift A when you're all finished. So that's number 2. Number 3, this one actually says the ends are not connected. So you'll see why here in a second. So we'll start there. Okay, I'll come around, bend back down into here, and then back up. And you could do it the other way too. I think the other way is actually a little bit easier if I start over here. Control Shift A. It's not as hard of a curve to start with. It's number 4. Click back. Same thing again. Finishing that off. Control Shift A. All right, now up here, we're going to use the ellipse tool. So I'll switch over to the ellipse tool. There's no point of trying to custom draw a circle. Go right to the middle of this dot. I'll hold in Alt and Shift. Just draw a circle out. Now number 6, Alt and Shift. Draw a circle out. All right, now let's change the colors of everything. So I can tell you this part of the fish's eye would be a black fill. So instead of hitting the drop down, I like to always hit the switch quick, and then I only have to affect one of them. This part of his eye is going to be white, so I hit the switch, and then I change this to white. Okay, and now I can start to change all the other stuff. And the order that we drew it actually does come into play. This one was the first one, so that's going to be behind the fish. So even though this looks like it's on top, it will be behind the fish. Okay, so we can change them in whatever order we want, but over in our layers panel, if you follow the order that I drew, it is going to actually have some effect on it. So we're going to hit the switch, and you could do this in a gradient if you want. You could do it in a color. Just for time's sake, I'm just going to do them in solid colors. So I'll make my 2 fins down here the same color as this. So I'm going to cheat and just use my eyedropper tool. Okay, and then I'm going to make his main body a different color just so it shows you the difference. Okay, so you see these 2 are on top. And the reason why I didn't connect these is just in case if you want to actually put a fill in here or a stroke on these, this one, if I add a stroke, they won't have a stroke that goes over there. So it kind of looks like it connects in, you know? Okay, so that's my examples I turned off. Now down towards the bottom, just to kind of wrap this up, there's 2 other tools. The curvature tool is right next to the pen tool and it looks similar. I'm sure there's a lot of cool ways of using the curvature tool, but what I have seen or used this for is just making very fast shapes that don't have to be extremely perfect or traced on top of something, as you can kind of see over here. So the curvature tool, if you just click and you move, you don't have to click and hold at all. It just constantly makes a perfect curve. It is a curvature tool. So I use this for things like a raindrop or a puddle or something like that, something that I don't have to be extremely particular with. Now you can always come back and you can adjust these, later on. I just find this a little bit harder to work with and harder to edit than it would be with the pen tool. But you might use that from time to time or find some online tutorials. The last thing is the smooth tool, which I'm only scratching the surface with this here, but I'm just going to make a very fast pen shape, and I'm going to do something where it doesn't really connect too nice right there. Control Shift A. And just to kind of show you this, I am going to take my fill off. I'm going to have a stroke. So you can see the connection point's not real nice. So if I select this and I go over to the smooth tool, so it's right here underneath the shapes, there's a shaper tool, smooth tool's right here. It's going to allow me to kind of draw over that shape. And here it says the smooth tool, you have to have them anchored. So I got to have the white arrow first. There we go. Now when I draw over this, it's going to try its best to kind of smooth out that area. So there's other things that you can do with this, like you can add or drop anchor points and smooth a corner very fast, but you may or may not even use this. I barely ever use this. I just try to draw a little bit nicer with the pen tool. So that is the pen tool, learning the basics. This is just scratching the surface of what we are going to do with our drawing ability.